So the Asuncion North mission actually takes up most of the country. So the Asuncion mission for Paraguay, it's is like this small, and it's just like the city of Asuncion and some outside cities. As opposed to my mission, it was more all the north part. Basically, we extended all the way to the boundaries of Bolivia, Brazil, and Argentina. So it was a really big mission in size. The church isn't so big because it didn't extend that far. Like we went to the border of Brazil, which was an area called Pedro Juan, but the closest we got to Bolivia, I think, was Philadelphia, and that was still like towards more of the middle part. So there was still a whole other chunk left. So the church is not very big there. I think it has that limit. There's a lot more of a Catholic feel in Paraguay. Everyone's basically kind of like, I'm Catholic because my family's Catholic, or like it's just a family tradition. So the members there are like you won't find very many who are actually like active LDS members. Most of them are just say they're Catholic still anyway. So that's kind of fun. Um, so there's the Luque steak, the Luque Sur steak, Capiatá, which other steak? The Asuncion North, and then Mariano Roque Alonso is a district. Pedro Juan's a district. Concepcion's a district. So there's like, I think there's 4 districts and 4 steaks in our mission alone. So um, there's still a lot to grow. I've been in areas, my first 3 areas were all wards. And then right after that, the rest were branches. I was in a unit once actually where we met in our home. So we lived, our apartment for Sunday, we'd have to turn it into the church. So we'd have like, when I first got there were 20 people who would come, and Relief Society was outside, primary was in our kitchen, and Elders Quorum was like in our living room. So it was kind of weird for me because 3 wards, branch unit. So it was like, I just felt like it was getting smaller every time. And then we expanded to, I think by the time I left, there were 40 people coming to the church. So I think there are actually like 3 units where in the mission where we used mission homes that the mission pays for through the rent. So mine was one of them where we lived, and that was very interesting. That was a very interesting area because I always thought, oh, I'm going to go to a church building. Instead, it was my own home, and we would put up the sign on Sunday so people would know, okay, here's where the church is. It's that house with the big sign, not the big building with the white point sticking up. It's just the house with the black sign. So it was really interesting. Then the last area I was in was a branch, and it was one of the more newer buildings they had constructed. I think it was like 3 years old. So it was a really, really relatively new building compared to the other ones, but it was still small. A lot of things that I noticed is that the chapels are small, but the open space is what takes up majority of the land that they have there. They usually have soccer fields there, so they play outside and they have the recreational activities outside. So that's why I think that they do that, so they can have more space outside for recreational stuff. It's really interesting because I feel, when the communities are so small, everyone knows the Mormons. Everyone always talks about like, oh, los Mormones, and or you get visited by the Mormons, and so everyone kind of knows because the community is so small, but at the same time, everyone still sticks to their Catholicism. That last area, everyone knew. Actually, the school even used the field for their gym, for their PE period. So they would go to use the soccer field at the church for the PE period, and sometimes when we'd be walking by, like the teacher would come over and be like, hey, it's okay if we can use this, right? Yeah, like that's fine. Like just don't, make sure like these are the rules, like they're written out there. And so it's a very community thing. I think the church, because it's so open and they want other people to know about it. So that's a good thing as well for missionary work. We got to meet a lot of the youth that way. A lot of the youth was a lot easier for the youth to bring their friends as well because of the field. They would just be like, hey, I have this friend who plays soccer with us here that always sees you guys, and he says that he's willing to listen to you guys. And we'd start teaching people through that way. And there was ese SPA, I think. It was a community thing where they also used the church to teach classes on knitting, baking, cooking. So it was very used for the community, is what I noticed. Is the church really tries to open its doors to people because everyone's so Catholic, so they can just kind of see on the inside and realize that it's not what other people think, it's not what other people say it is, and it helps a lot in the long run. Honestly, I think a lot of the people that we met in that last area was because of all the openness it was, how willing the members were to have their friends come and say, yeah, so she's in my knitting class here, and she already comes to the church, so you guys can teach her here, and that was really cool. A lot of the Paraguayans think that the American missionaries are there to steal their water, land, and women. So a lot of the people don't want to talk to us for that reason, because they're just like, oh, you guys are just American spies. And it's kind of like, no, like, we're not. We're just like, and it helped a little bit because I was tan and I looked Latino. And I was like, yeah, see, like, I'm Latino, like, I'm Mexican. Like, oh, so it's not, and that's how the conversation would start. And they would realize that not all the missionaries were American, but they came from different places. So that was a really common misconception, that we were just there to take their water and land and stuff, that we were there to spy on them. So that was really interesting. A really, really big thing that made it really difficult was family. We would have investigators that would have really Catholic families, but they were interested. And when it came to their baptismal date, it was really hard because of the acceptance of the family. A lot of the family would say, it'd be even hard to get the family to say we could teach them, and then let alone let them be baptized. So that was a really hard thing, because I remember in one of my areas, I was in Itagua, and we were teaching this guy who had schizophrenia. And he was a great investigator. He started changing, he started learning a lot, and he really had faith in God and faith in what we were teaching him, to the point where we felt that he actually was getting better and his schizophrenia was not as bad as when we had first met him. And he had his baptismal date, and his family just from the very start they were very skeptical with letting us teach him. And so they would sit in sometimes, or they would just look at us from far away. And we didn't really know what happens when we leave, we only know what happens when we're there. So apparently the family wasn't okay with us teaching him. So we started going as his baptismal date was approaching, and they started making excuses and hiding him from us. And they were just like, oh, he's not home, like he went out to the store, and we would see him peeking out from the back, or he would say, oh, he went to go pay his phone bill, and we could hear him like watching TV. And it came down to the fact that he actually told us that his family said that he could not be baptized. Him even being 25 years old, above age, and he could make his own decisions, still that family impact was so strong. And it was one of the hardest moments, I think, of my mission, because you grow to love your investigators, you grow to see them as friends, and you grow to see them as these people. So it hurt a lot when it happened, and this area specifically was where I think it happened to us like 3-4 times. So this was only the first blow of many, because after that, we kept meeting amazing people, and just their families just would not let them be baptized because of that Catholic background. And it hurt a lot, because as a missionary, you just don't want to baptize them. You don't care so much about that, but the spiritual meaning behind it, what it really means to come close to God, to bring upon yourself the name of Christ, and to be cleansed of your sins. And it was really hard to see people be denied that because of their families and because of traditional things like Catholicism. Like, I feel that a lot of these people were ready and they were old enough to make their decisions, but because of that, a lot of them couldn't. And to this day, a lot of them are not baptized, and I have that communication with them, but their family just will forever, I guess, be that way until something happens, hopefully. But I think that was the biggest thing that I realized on my mission, was just that it was the family. The family had a lot to say with whether you can change your religion or not. At the beginning of my mission, they always told us to work with members, but it was really hard to get them to come with us. So I remember at the beginning of my mission, I was always very like, it's whatever, we'll do it, we're the missionaries. And towards the end of my mission, I started seeing a lot more success because members started to go out with us, and they started to do visits with us. They would even start giving us referrals, and they would start telling us about their friends. And if I would have known that from the very start how effective it would have been, I would have just done it from the start. Just from the very beginning, go straight to the members and like have them come out with us, have them like be part of the work instead of me thinking, oh, missionary work, it's just for missionaries, when it's a lot more helpful when you have them with you, because a Paraguayan will listen more to another Paraguayan than they will to a foreigner. So I served from August 2014 to August 2016, and I started serving in Jucuru, then I went to Molino, then from there I went to San Jorge I went to Itagua to Concepcion to Benjamin Aceval.